how did you get into the family business?
Getting into the family business, we rewind back to 2011. My dad, Andy, bought into the ActionCOACH franchise. So he's been in this thing from 2011 to it's 2025 now, so about 14 years. I joined the business in 2020. So if I get a little bit of history, a little bit of backstory here, and I'm sure Andy will tell this story way better than I will, but back in a couple years before that, so my grandfather ran a moving company up in North Iowa. It was, I think, started by his maybe his dad's, maybe my great grandfather, my grandfather and great aunt ran it. My dad worked in it for a long time. I think grandpa and dad ended up having a bit of a disagreement on how things work within a family business. Dad left the business, fast forward a number of years, and I want to say it was somewhere around that 2008, 2009 timeframe. My dad found out that grandpa had to file bankruptcy to get out from underneath the business. Long story short, my dad's going through, stumbled across kind of the ActionCOACH franchise, decided to go and be a coach and look at how do we ensure that never happens to businesses ever again. So I've been around it since that moment. I was still coming out of college, things like that. I remember my first couple jobs. Second job out of college was working for a chamber of commerce as a program director. Up in that time, my dad had this ActionCOACH franchise, and there were some things that were going on between those. So I got to help a little bit with it. Did some social media stuff for him back in the day. Had no idea what I was doing, but I was helping out to the best of my ability, but growing kind of my career path. So went through some nonprofit work, got into banking for a while, started with a small credit union, then ended up at Bank of America. So fast forward to 2020. I'm working for Bank of America. I was a VP, was on the wealth management side of things, essentially doing mortgage loans for high net worth individuals. And my dad comes to me and he's like, hey, I have this opportunity within the business. And the opportunity is to transition from what they call a practice, which is really just an individual coach that could kind of build a business around him. Couldn't really build out this massive business. And you could trade it for a firm, which meant now you could build a business that could work without him one day. Same thing that we teach all of our clients to do. To do that, he came to me and said, hey, I love the coaching piece. I need somebody who can help me run the business, help me build the actual business itself. Would you be interested in joining? And I've always kind of had this desire to do something entrepreneurial. I told you the story of my grandfather and his business. On the other side of the family, my grandparents on my mom's side ran a real estate brokerage for more than 50 years, finally just gave some of it up this year. I said, yes, leave my banking job, this high-level corporate thing that I started to build up, leave 6 figures in income to go join a business with my dad, and have never looked back since. It's been about 5 years now, and it's been just an incredible journey to be able to do that and see kind of what we've accomplished and what we've learned along the way. But that's really the genesis of it. Lots of family history in terms of business, and having that moment where really my dad trusts me enough to come in and say, is it something that you'd want to do with me? We became business partners and haven't looked back ever since.
So how do you distinguish between family time and business time?
It can be really tough, especially with the fact that my brain tends to be wired on being on business all the time, just because I really enjoy it, right? If it's not the ActionCOACH business, it's other things that I might be working on or thinking about. So I can be in my own household, and my wife and I can make some decisions around that. But if we go over to my parents' house, the likelihood of some of those business-related conversations sneaking their way in is pretty common, even if it's just hey, you can be in the office on Monday, right? So we try to distinguish, this is for family, this is for business. One of the things that we've found that we tend to do, and I can't remember if this was intentional or not, but when we're in work setting, if we're in business setting, my parents are Andy and Jody. I call them by that. When we're in family time, it's mom and dad. So just the little languaging cues sometimes can help separate and create that delineation between business time and family time.
Whenever you first started and went into business with them, how hard was it to call them by their first names?
It was a little awkward, I think, at first, but for me, I found it was an easy way to really create the difference between the two times. So knowing that there was that end result or that end reason behind it, it was, I'm in work mode just like I am if I'm at an office or something else like that. So it's Andy and Jody. And even if it was a little awkward on the front end, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I don't know that I had a huge issue with making that transition to, ask or call them by their first name versus, mom and dad back when we first started.
You talk business at the dinner table.
Am I not supposed to? I think When you think about that, the short answer is yes. Longer answer is it depends. We try to contain it. There's definitely been seasons where it's been harder to not talk business at the dinner table, and seasons where it's been a little bit easier to take a step back and know that this is family time. From a family business perspective, it helps that, we're all adults and live in separate houses. So most of the time it's talk at the dinner table. It's either in my own household with my wife, which I give her tons of credit for allowing me to talk business and just get things out of my head from time to time. But I can't say that she's the most enthused when it comes to talking business. But then when we get together for, group related things, things with extended family, being, going over to my parents' house for dinner, something else like that. That's really hard to not talk business. Everything we do is really wrapped around this legacy, wealth creation, business building. I'm a big fan of talking about these things and making it traditional talk at the dinner table, specifically around our kids. But I know that there comes a point when there's too much of that and not enough on just general family related stuff.
What did your wife think whenever you said you were going to go into business with your parents?
First and foremost, it was not me telling my wife that I was going into business with my parents. It was a conversation for us to make a decision if that was the right path or not. I think by and large, on the surface, she was pretty okay with it, but there are moments when it's like, man, I wish that wasn't the case. And that just comes from the emotional entanglement that happens, I think, in any family business. There are going to be times when it's like, was that a good call? Is this good for the family overall? Do we butt heads a little bit more than maybe just traditional coworkers and things like that? Has that caused friction over time? 100%. My wife's been really supportive of that entire journey. Sometimes it's that was a good choice. Other times it was maybe we should have made a different choice. But by and large, again, just comes back to what's the outcome that we're all looking to strive towards, and was this a path for that? And are we both aligned with that trajectory? And the answer has and continues to be yes, even though there may be days that are a little bit more difficult and challenging than others.
When it comes to family business and the dynamics, is it hard sometimes to maybe call out your parents on something that you think needs to be done, or have you maybe gotten better at that over time?
No, not anymore. Not for me. I tend, and my parents will tell you the exact same thing. I don't know if it's a gift. I don't know if it's a curse. I traditionally do not have a problem calling people out, family included. So when I look back at some of this stuff, was it more difficult? Yes, of course it is. Anytime that there's an emotional entanglement between family and business, making those hard choices and holding each other to account, that can be really tough. More so than other team members because they are family. And we went through multiple different phases within the last 5 years or so where it was easier and it was harder. And early on, it was a bit harder to be able to call them out and for them to call me out, right? This is a complete two-way street. But I do remember days where we'd be doing a board meeting. Tensions would get really, really high. Everybody would be running a little bit hot. Things were not getting done. We each had roles within the company that had specific responsibilities that we had to be held accountable to. And we weren't always doing it effectively. I remember one time specifically where I literally walked out of the conference room and I'm almost in tears, face is really red. I literally just had to leave the building and go sit in the car for a bit. It was too much because having that friction was hard. But going through that enough times and understanding that it's not personal, we can separate some of these emotional moments, allowed us to get better at having those accountability conversations. I remember another moment, and this was a phone call. So I think my parents are driving home from somewhere, I can't remember where it was. I'm on speakerphone with my dad. We're going at it on something. Can't remember exactly what it was, but we're going at it. Anger, emotions, everything is flaring up, and he literally hung up on me. And I remember just being like, I don't know that he's ever hung up on me before. And I think it was 30, 40 minutes later, calls back, emotions have died down, have a bit of a conversation, get through whatever we needed to on the business side. And that was a Friday. Preparing for Saturday. Kids coming over on the weekend, gonna hang out, have fun. Yep, went over, had an amazing weekend. And that was a kind of a breakthrough moment for us to recognize this was business, this is family. And with enough kind of practice going through those difficult conversations and holding each other accountable, we could create that delineation between this is business, this is family. Just because we had emotions and friction and everything else in the business over here does not mean that we can't go have an amazing time as a family on the weekend.
Have you and your parents always been the only owners of this business?
No. This business has gone through a couple different iterations. So back in 2020, when I joined the business, it was actually just my dad and I. So just the two of us started. My mom was still working. I think at the time she was still with the United Way for Greater Williamson County, had not exited kind of her role there yet. So it was just my dad and I. We brought on a business partner in 2022, went through that process, had some great, tremendous growth as a full partnership. And then in 2024, ultimately ended that partnership. In there, I think it was right before 2022 or earlier on in 2022 is actually when my mom entered the business. We went from just my dad and I to my dad and I and my mom, and then bringing on the fourth business partner who was not family. Great partner, by the way, and ended up splitting that partnership due to some different changes and things that were happening on everybody's life at that point, and actually went through a partnership split and then moved into kind of the iteration of the business today, which is now both my parents and me together.
With bringing on a fourth partner into a family-led business, how did that kind of change the dynamic of things?
You know, there was actually some really positive things that came out of it. Because we had a fourth business partner, I would say one of the things that actually did was accelerate our ability to hold each other accountable, because it was no longer just a family dynamic. It was, we have a board now that is more than just us as family members. We have to be held to account for this other individual and vice versa. So I think it actually forced us to run the business more like an actual business versus this lifestyle thing that we kind of had. So in a lot of ways, it was really positive. And I got to give our previous partner a ton of credit. He went through and before he joined a family business at that point, or we chose to make the thing happen, we had some really good conversations. What was this going to look like? How did this fit with everybody else? Like, what was his role going to be to be able to hold us all accountable, and vice versa? So we had some really healthy conversations on the front end that actually made that work for most of that journey. It accelerated things that needed to happen anyway. And I think it's part of the reason why we are as a family where we are today, 5 years later from when I joined the business, because we actually had an outside individual that forced us to really look at it as a business.
Awesome. Final question. What is some advice you would give to other family-owned businesses?
Try not to take things personally. I know it's really hard to do that, especially when you've got family involved. But if you can take a step back and just look at the situation overall, look at what are the things that are going to be true regardless if you're family or not. If you can take that step back and create the delineation, it makes everything so much easier. Because at the end of the day, the business is the same whether it's family or not. So if you can take that step back, understand that your identity does not have to be wrapped up within the business, know that each family member that's in the business plays a function, plays a role. I play the marketing role. My dad plays the sales role. Somebody plays the coaching role. Somebody plays the CEO. Somebody plays each of these different functions. We are not that role, but we play in that role, which means eventually we're going to put somebody else into that spot. Hold the position to account before you hold the person to account. Attack the position, attack the responsibilities, not the person. And oftentimes I can get really hard to do when emotions get mixed into it. So if there's one piece of advice that I can give for other family businesses, take a step back, look at it objectively, be willing to walk away and cool off, set that rule. We had to multiple times. We know emotions are going to raise hot. We have set a rule for everybody on our board to be able to just call time out, take a step out, let emotions settle, come back and make a logical decision as a result of it. Remove your identity from the business so that you can create the delineation between family and business.